Oh man, it is Friday, April the 12th. An important notice, of course, always is be with the people who bring out the best in you. I do like this right next to my desk. And I think the thing that you guys are most interested in, of course, is what is the cat calendar telling us today? Well, April 12th is National Grilled Cheese Sandwich Day. Damn right. I screwed up. I should have had this. Yesterday because I did have some grilled cheese because it is delicious. It's nothing like grilled cheese and maybe tomato soup. But hey, we can talk about all those lovely things if we ever really wanted to. But I don't think you guys care what I eat or what I'm doing. So let's get right into the things that you might actually be here for, which we're going to talk about. And I need to pull these things up because why else would I have this? Again, if you're on LinkedIn, you're not able to see this. But if you're everywhere else, you do get to see this. And we're going to talk about Blackstone going big in multifamily. We're going to cover why there's oversupply hitting the market in commercial real estate. We're going to hit on property insurance. Gosh, it's a nightmare. Everybody needs it. Actually, everybody needs insurance, period. But few people actually want to be willing to pay for it. That's the issue. And then we're going to talk about tax season tips. I'm not a CPA or registered tax advisor, but there's some things that you can learn just by doing this thing called Googling. And then we're going to hit on all of these $1 million homes out there. There are 550 cities now that average over $1 million homes. So pretty nuts, right? Now, before we do that, let's get into, of course, our weekly LinkedIn poll question. So again, this is going to be up for the next few days. It has nothing to do with the markets or money or real estate, etc. It has something to do with something that rarely happens, which is the eclipse. So the question is, how many people actually watch the eclipse? I watched it here in Boston, but it wasn't in the direct path, so I didn't really see a significant difference. And when you had 100% blockage, like a lot of the people I do know, you found some pretty cool photos, and I actually have one in our social media that I'm going to share here a little bit later. But yeah, let me know if you actually did participate in the watching the eclipse, or if you missed it and just looked at pictures like me. All right, and now let's talk about the markets year to date. A little bit different branding because I heard some feedback. People couldn't see the difference between when I was blue and orange columns. So hey, I'm just going to do white. Make it really simple. If it's green, it's good. If it's red, it's bad. So 30-year mortgages are still actually above what they were at the start of this year. We are still hovering in the positive on all the major indices, and Bitcoin continues to crush it. Yes, there is a white hot inflation report. I didn't write about it this week, but there was a white hot inflation report that does suggest that interest rates may not actually come down this year, which does impact the market, and the market did drop as a result of that. But we can cover that all more next week. But you can see green is good. That's generally what we want to see. All right, so our first of 5 stories, Blackstone. Yeah, Blackstone, one of the biggest groups in the world. They're going big in multifamily. And believe me, if you've been in the multifamily space investing, you know it is a disaster out there. It's been a disaster out there for the last couple of years. I think enough of my newsletters and weekly check-ins like this should inform you that you have to be very careful if you're getting into the multifamily space. Be very selective. I'm still investing in multifamily, don't get me wrong, but I'm much more selective in which deals I'm picking, how I'm getting the debt, the capital debt or the senior debt, the subordinate debt, and the investor money lined up to make sure that we are protected for the long term. But Blackstone, they believe in the commercial real estate market hasn't been in this position since 2008 to 2009. So what that means is there's going to be higher borrowing costs. There's a lot more fear in the marketplace. And as Warren Buffett always says, it's be greedy when others are fearful and fearful when others are greedy. That's what Blackstone is doing. They are betting $10 billion because they just went out and acquired Apartment Income REIT Group. And and they've been very cautious for the past several years when it comes to the multifamily space. So by them taking $10 billion out of their $30 billion fund to get into multifamily suggests that there's a big opportunity out there for people now trying to time getting back into the multifamily market. So yes, Blackstone's going big. Does that mean it's an early indicator that the market might be turning around? Who knows? Our dear friends at the Federal Reserve also have a say in the impacts of interest rates on the performance of property values. All right. Story number 2. So we know Blackstone's getting it, but then there's this pesky thing called supply and demand. I think we all learned that in college, maybe even hopefully in high school. But you can see in this graph, again, you can't see it in Instagram, but if you are on any other platform like LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter or X, you can see the graphs available for you. And what you can see actually on there is that the effective rent change is pretty minimal, and that we're getting ever so close to an equality of supply and demand, and even in some situations of oversupply. So not all parts of the country are we experiencing oversupply, but some we are. And where this is particularly being hit the most is in the South. Because there's been, a net outflow into the South over the past several years. Builders have been trying to keep up with that demand. Well, what that is ultimately leading to is a softening of rents. And so we're still going to see a positive, more or less, growth in rent, but it's not going to be the 10 to 15% that you were seeing in year over year during the COVID times. So just definitely, again, be wary of where you're investing if you're looking to invest into real estate. Recognize the market dynamics. I mean, the Midwest is on fire. The Northeast is actually pretty strong, although we're not very favorable from a landlord-friendly perspective, but the Northeast is definitely in high demand. I mean, I can speak from being a landlord here in Boston. There's high demand out there. But yes, just monitor the changing demographics in the supply and demand curve, because that will ultimately dictate the performance of your properties. All right, so let's move on to story number 3. Story number 3 is about insurance. Nobody likes talking about insurance, right? Whether it's life insurance and disability insurance on the personal side, or whether it's property and casualty insurance. Nobody likes talking about insurance, because the reason you pay for insurance is to cover for the things that you can't predict in life. And guess what? With the amount of natural disasters that are occurring right now in the world, there are a lot of needs in property insurance. So when you look at it, property insurance cost per unit has risen 28%. It's 27.7. So I'm just going to round up here in this year of 2024. And it's actually risen about 130% since the start of 2018. That's an average of $650 per unit, roughly. That's a significant increase in property insurance. But that's not the only expenses that are also increasing. Yes, natural disasters are driving the increase on property insurance, but you also have, marketing costs. You've got administrative costs. You've got repairs and maintenance, which kind of is associated with things that generally get hurt by severe weather. So all of that leads to a compounding, like $9,000 cost per unit. If you are a landlord, if you're renting it for $1,000, and that means you really are making $3,000 a year in profit after all of those expenses. And that accounts for you having 100% occupancy and everything like that. So the margins are becoming ever thinner because the expenses are rising significantly across the marketplace, including good old property insurance. And just to give you kind of an idea here, what I laid out there was the national average on income per unit. I said 1,000. Technically speaking, it's $1,056 for all those people that like to be very detail oriented. And while expenses are rising, $593. This translates into about a $463 increase in net operating income. So again, the NOI is increasing a bit, but these expenses are tough, and you've got to find a way to control them more effectively. All right, so those kind of like the more real estate type things. Now we're going to shift into a fun thing called taxes. So here's some tips for tax season. And yes, if you guys don't know, unless you file an extension, taxes are due next week. So hopefully you're doing it yourself or working with a CPA that you trust to do this. But yeah, the IRS absolutely loves this time of the year, because this is where they start getting to collect. And here's just a few ways that maybe you can save on your taxes. I only wrote down 4, but Fidelity had a great article that I think listed at 8 or 9. So the first one was seize available deductions. If you are a homeowner like myself, you have deductions there. You can take state and local taxes. You've got medical and dental expenses. So say you're just starting a family and your wife is pregnant. That's certainly some deductions, because that's a medical expense. Charitable donations, if you're making some charitable donations to local churches or community projects that you're focused on, those are all things. If you were, like we just hit on property insurance, if you were involved in a natural disaster and there is material impact to your home or property, that is also a deduction. If you have kids, recognize those deductions too. So those are all the things that you want to be wary of ways you can generate more tax savings by recognizing your deductions. Another one is make the most of your high yield savings account or higher savings incentives. Sorry, not high yield savings accounts, although those are better than traditional CDs. So one of those things are like contributing into an IRA, an HSA, and a 529 plan. Now, if you're actually in a 529, I'd advise against that. Those things are not actually good. There's a lot better things out there. If you do have questions, just ask me. I can help you there. HSAs, I actually do like that because it's a great way to minimize all of your tax implications. I was heavy on HSAs. I would max that out every single year when I was still in the corporate world. Now, as an entrepreneur, I don't really have an HSA. And then retirement accounts. Roths are good. Traditional 401ks, not so good. You always want to pay taxes now rather than later because guess what? We're in a hell of a lot of debt as a country. Taxes are only going to go up. And by the time you're actually accessing your retirement accounts when you're 59 and a half or 65, or when you actually want to start withdrawing money from there, your deduction amount is actually probably going to be lower because you're probably going to have already paid off your house. You won't have kids that you can claim as dependents anymore. So there's a lot of things that you probably won't be able to deduct. You're actually going to be in a higher tax bracket. So I would recommend actually putting things into a Roth instead of a traditional, but there are some caps. I think it's like 7,000 this year. The other next thing is, like I just said, put things into a Roth. Well, put your savings to work. Whether you're putting it into a Roth or you're just putting it right into the market, figure out ways to maximize your income earnings. So you want to start creating those passive streams of income because you won't have a W-2 job for your entire life. So how do you build up that other stream? And ideally, like they always say, the average millionaire has 7 to 8 revenue streams. 7 to 8 is the average millionaire. So start putting your money to work while you're sleeping. Whether that's investing in real estate, investing in other things like being a franchise owner, something I do, or your just personal finance knowledge, you can figure it out or others can help along the way. And then tax loss harvesting. You know, the market's been good, the market's been bad, the market's very volatile. Recognize the losses that you've had on positions that you might have exited and take advantage of that because that is what's called tax loss harvesting. So there's a lot of ways you can do that. You can also, you can do a backdoor conversion on a Roth. Like I said, if you're in a traditional 401k, you want to recognize those tax hits now. So say you lost money this year, this is the ideal time to do a backdoor conversion from a Roth to, from a traditional 401k into a Roth. That way you pay the taxes, but if you've lost money on a lot of things, the taxes are not going to be that high. All right, so those are some of the tax tips. Are you doing any of those? That's one question I'll ask you. And if you're not, reach out to me. I'm sure I can help you in one way or another. All right, now let's move into the $1 million homes. Yes, there's a graph there. And that graph is a lot. And it's kind of like a hockey stick-like growth, if you can see that. Well, you might have noticed in 2000, there was maybe, based on the graph, like 20 cities that were averaging $1 million homes. And now in 2024, we're sitting at 550 cities. So yeah, inflation's a real thing. Real estate prices are only getting more expensive. Guess what the most expensive state is? California. Yep. California has 210 cities that are $1 million cities, meaning that the average sale price is over $1 million on a single family home. Just to put that in perspective, that 210 is more than New York, New Jersey, Florida, Massachusetts, and Colorado combined. And those are the next states right after California. Now, the most expensive home is in Naples, Florida. It went on the market in February and is listed for $295 million. I always joke, hey, Jay-Z and Beyonce is probably going to buy that one too because they're the ones that bought the $232 million home last year. But they did that pretty creative financing structure in which it was originally listed for, I think, $310 million, but they were able to buy it with cash for $230 million, and then they reversed into a mortgage after that. So let's see how much this Naples home really sells for. But now you know, 550 cities in America that average $1 million homes or more. Okay, so those were our top 5 news stories. Let me know which ones you like the most. Let's get into some of the things that are less like news oriented, just kind of cool things too. So I talked about the eclipse earlier on. This is a photo of my friend Charlie Nutting, or as he goes by, Charlie Likes Water. This is just cool. So he went up to Vermont and he lives in Boston. But yeah, this is at what, like 3 p.m.? And that's pitch black. Like, that's just incredible. This is where we have to take a pause and recognize in life that there's a lot of cool things out there that are maybe not associated with our day to day. And if we're too busy just running the rat race and not looking around and figuring out all these other cool things going on, we're going to miss out on moments like this. The eclipse doesn't come that frequently. I think the next one's coming in like 50 years or something like that. So I'm going to be old. Hopefully, I'm still around. But a lot of people, this was our only chance to see an eclipse like this. And thank you to Charlie for tracking this thing down because it is pretty damn cool. And now this next one, I'm actually going to try and pull up two photos, and I'll have to do it like a side by side. So there's been a lot of people that have talked to me, and let's see if I can properly pull this off. No, come on. Yeah. All right, look at that side by side there. So James Murphy, he's a real estate guy. He actually does a lot of Airbnb type stuff. And again, if you're on LinkedIn, you don't get to see this, but people have been bitching about, hey, the fact that all the major cities in America, it's more expensive to buy than to rent. I'm just like, well, realistically, it's always kind of been more expensive to buy than to rent. You're just not looking at your numbers properly. And so what James Murphy did the favor for all of us is providing us some additional education. And the example that I have popped up on the screen here is showing that a home in Dallas, basically a like for like, so an apples to apples comparison. A home in Dallas, if you wanted to actually buy it, it would cost you, let's say, $480,000. Now, generally, people have to put 20% down, but we're making the assumption that you only actually have to put, and if is 20% down, by the way, that's what, $96,000. A lot of people don't have $96,000 sitting around. This assumption is you're putting like 3% down or $17,000. That's the down payment amount. The interest rate is then sitting at 7.7% because you're not hitting that minimum PMI of 20%. So that means your monthly payment on your mortgage is just shy of $4,000. It's $3,942. Okay, so it's a $480,000 purchase. You're putting just shy of $17,000 down, and you're paying $4,000 a month. Another asset in Dallas, exact same dimensions of a house, same neighborhood. You can rent that for $2,500, $2,600 a month. Like I said, same number of beds and baths, exact same dimensions. So help me understand here. $1,400 less by renting versus buying. And that also doesn't even account for the down payment. So let's say the down payment is, again, $17,000. You generally have to do a first month security deposit, so $2,600. So 17 minus 2,600, yeah, you're looking at like $14,000 in savings there. And then you're paying $1,400 a month less over the course of 12 months. That's what, basically another $15,000. You're looking at $30,000 in savings just in 1 year by being a renter versus a buyer. So again, if people keep on telling you about like the American dream is to buy a home, what American dream is that? It's certainly not mine. I mean, they always say, rich dad, poor dad, a house is a liability, not an asset. So if you're in good financial shape, yes, by all means, buy a house. Like I eventually will buy a house for my family. Like I'm a homeowner right now, but I did multifamily play, so I can house hack. But I'm talking about single family homes. Like that's a liability. Just look at the math here on the screen. You can see the side-by-side analysis of you are paying $1,400 or more to be a home owner. Yes, maybe mentally that gives you more comfort in knowing that the landlord can't increase your rents, but maybe just structure a better deal than with landlords of saying, all right, I will stay here. I will take great shape of it. And maybe we lock in an inflation increase of 3% a year. Okay, cool. Now you're protecting the amount they can actually increase your rent on you. So anyhow, that is something I thought was very valuable in the social media sphere of what people should be thinking about. Let's add in now our dear friend Joe Biden and student loans. Yeah, student loans have been a big topic of conversation for a lot of people because guess what? Millennials and Gen Z are graduating with epic numbers of student loans. Last week tonight with John Oliver, yeah, I find his stuff entertaining, but it's also very educational. And he has an entire skit on student loans. So if you want 25 minutes of entertainment and education, check that out because I know I'm not entertaining. Hopefully I'm educating, but not as entertaining as John Oliver. There's a reason he makes the money that he makes and is on Comedy Central. So what President Biden is trying to do, along with the Democratic Party, is this debt relief plan aiming to cancel debt for over 30 million Americans by this fall. And it's specifically targeting people that like unpaid interest debts above their original loan amounts. So you take out like say a $70,000 loan, but you have interest of 80,000. That just doesn't make sense. So there's a cap on how much interest you can be because that's almost like predatory lending. And they're also trying to minimize things for financial hardship on some borrowers. Let's see what actually happens. Because again, in order to release this debt, something has to give. So what's going to give? So I'm very curious to see what happens, but keep your eye on it. They'll probably try and pull this off before the elections. All right. So those were our top 3 things in the social media space. We've covered now our top 5 news stories. Now let's get into my weekly blog. And so last week, as I have mentioned again on my cat calendar, so today is grilled cheese day, so take advantage of grilled cheese day. But last week was actually National Beer Day and World Health Day, all on the same day. So I decided I was going to use that time to write about, not beer, although I did have a beer that day, of course. I wrote about health. And the title of my blog was, Are You Being Selfish About Your Health? I specifically remember my CEO at Nike, John Donahoe, awesome leader, by the way. I know Nike's going through some challenges. I mean, hell, their stock has more than halved since I left, but still, John always had this statement of, "Are you being selfish? It's not selfish, it's selfless to take care of yourself." And that's why I want people to focus on their health today. Again, I know you're generally talking about real estate and money, but if you're not taking care of your health, oh my God. There's this Indian proverb that said, and I need to find this exactly, a healthy man has many wishes, a sick man only one. And then the one that I generally like to reference is Tony Robbins, because he helps you get excited about life if you're that type of person, which I certainly like to be that way. And he says, a healthy person has 1,000 wishes, a sick person just one. Whoever you want to give credit to, it's the same notion of, hey, think about your health more deeply. And why is health such a precious resource for us? Well, here's a few things that I'm going to hit on. One, quality of life. If you're not in good health, you're really not enjoying anything else. You can't do your work. You can't hang out with your family. It can make you more depressed. You won't be pursuing your interests and hobbies. It just puts a lot of significant limitations on what you want to try and accomplish in life. So that's one thing in health. And as you can see, I'm holding a plank with my nieces several years ago, wearing my Fielder's Derby shirt in this. So we'll keep that one up. And yes, I can hold a plank for as long as I keep talking this thing. So I've heard from some people that they actually want me to hold a plank while doing the weekly rundown. We'll see. If I get enough feedback, yeah, I'll do it. The next part on having good health, longevity. People want to try and live forever, right? As Ricky Bobby says in Talladega Nights, with modern day medicine, I don't know. I think I could probably live to 120. Well, yeah, if you're in good health, you can actually have a healthier lifestyle that will enable you to enjoy a longer life. And you do this by, regular exercising, having good, healthy eating habits with the right nutrition, avoiding the harmful habits like smoking, drinking too much, all of that stuff that can, shorten your lifespan and create chronic diseases. Then in good health, you can have more productivity. I like to try and live 3 days in one. That's the Ed Milet perspective. I try to be able to follow that. He hits on the power of one more. And if you're in good health, you can actually be more productive, whether that's in your personal or professional endeavors. If I want to spend more time with my kid, I know my energy won't be drained because I am in good health and I can keep up with an 18-month-old sprinting around, throwing crap against the wall, dumping milk on the floor, and a golden retriever wanting to play fetch every single second. And I think he could hear me say that, so I'm sure he's going to Kool-Aid man and bust through the door on me any second with the ball in his mouth wanting to play fetch. So that's another thing. And then when you're in good health, financial stability. Because guess what? What absolutely drains American wallets is the cost of healthcare in America. Yes, we have very expensive healthcare costs. And when you are not in good health, you are experiencing chronic illnesses, medical emergencies, everything that will drain your wallet. The best insurance in the world will not be able to protect you against being in bad health. So that's another reason why you want to be in good health. Then emotional well-being. Because guess what? If you're in bad health, and we just covered the financial stability that you would be missing, that's going to be an emotional drain on your well-being. That's just one thing. Finances create a lot of stress for people. let's assume that finances aren't even the reason that. There's actually shown that, exercise creates a more positive mindset. So if you're not exercising, then yeah, you're emotionally going to be draining yourself. You're not helping yourself in any ways. And then I don't know if anybody has kids like I do, and like my photo shows in the LinkedIn thing. So if you're on Instagram, you're not getting to see these things, but whatever. Just pretend you're seeing Dan holding a plank with his two nieces. That's role modeling behavior. You want to try and role model the things that are healthy for your kids and the people that look up to you, versus just trying to be a couch potato. So that's another reason why you want to practice good health, because you never know who's actually watching you. And the seventh and final reason why I believe being in good health is important is it actually provides a good community impact. So like I said, I'm role modeling for my family, but also being a healthy individual in my community means I can help with local charities. I can role model for other people outside of my family, and just try to be a person that others would want to try and model their life after. So number 6 and number 7 do kind of overlap there, but the first one was more directly to my family and friends, and the others to people that I may not even know. So those are the 7 reasons why I believe people should be focusing on your health. Now, a lot of people have already heard me talk about this, and they're just like, well, Dan, you always prioritize your health, and you always talk about the ripple effects that extend to your family and your community. And yeah, from a personal standpoint, yeah, I like to be a bit of a health freak. I try to work out at least 6 days a week for 60 minutes. My knees don't like me for that, so if anybody has any special knee magic, let me know. But yes, I work out every day, and yes, I have a pretty regimented sleep schedule. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but I try to be in bed by 9:30 so I can be up by 5:30, because that ties to my daily routine. And yes, I tend to avoid eating unhealthy food and steer away from a lot of meats. I probably vegetarian 5-6 days a week. And selfishly, I do this because it makes me feel good. Unselfishly, I do this because I know if I'm not in good health, then I can't be the husband to my wife and the father to my son that I want to be. And so me being sick, that doesn't just hurt me, that hurts the people that I love. And so today I challenge you really to think about that a little bit more deeply of how much do you care about your health? And are you doing everything that you can do to be the healthiest version of yourself? And if you're not, because guess what? We're always a work in progress, right? If you're not, then what steps are you willing to take to be a better version of yourself? And, I challenge you, because are you doing this for you, or are you doing this for the people that you love? So that's the weekly blog, and hopefully you guys got something out of it. Now we're going to close this out because I know it is Friday and it is the Masters, so everybody wants to hear the good old jokes, right? So I tried to tie one to the Masters, some and more to tax season. So remember, pay your taxes. Why are taxes like golf? Because you work hard on the green just to end up in the hole. I think every time I just recognize how damn funny I was. What sort of taxes are there on trash bags? Hefty ones. And no one is glad about it. Hefty really, Hefty paid me to put that joke in there. And then when you spell the IRS, it looks a lot like theirs. Wow, that was too much fun, guys. All right, well, hey, until next time, take care of yourself, be well, and if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please let me know. I'm curious to see how many people want to actually see me do a plank and talk through this stuff next week, so just shoot me a text or a message. All right, take care, everyone. Be good.